Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to look at how textile engineers use statistics to make sure every single yard of fabric is top-notch. We'll dive into the tools they use to bring some order to what is, by its very nature, a pretty chaotic process and deliver that consistent quality we all just expect.
So how exactly do you get from this jumble of threads to a perfect, consistent product? Well, that's what we're going to unpack today. We'll kick things off with the big challenge, variability. Then we'll see how data wrangles that chaos. Check out the toolkit engineers rely on, and finally, put those tools into practice with a real-world example.
All right, first things first. Before we jump into the solutions, we really need to understand the problem. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of a textile engineer and get a feel for the fundamental challenge they're up against every single day.
This right here. This is the million-dollar question. It's the core challenge of quality control in textiles. I mean, if your raw materials are never truly identical, how on earth can you expect the final product to be? It sounds like an impossible task, but that's where the magic of statistics comes into play.
You see, this variability isn't some accident or mistake. It is baked right into the process of making textiles. A natural fiber like cotton, well, its length and strength are going to vary from one plant to the next. The person working the day shift might do things just a little differently than the person on the night shift. And when you're running a huge batch of fabric across, say, hundreds of different looms, each one of those is its own little mini factory, introducing its own tiny variations. It's a perfect storm of variables.
So you're the engineer, and you're staring down this storm of variables. Where do you even start? The answer isn't some new fancy machine, it's a totally new way of looking at things. You start by organizing all that chaos using data.
Okay, the very first move is to take all your raw measurements. Let's say it's the number of defects you find in each piece of fabric, and you organize them into something you can actually make sense of. This is what we call a frequency distribution, and it's the absolute crucial first step to get from a messy pile of data to a clear, useful insight.
And you know what? Building one is actually pretty simple. You figure out what you're measuring, you list all the possible outcomes you see, and then you just go through your data, making tally marks like you did in school. It's a simple four-step process that brings instant clarity to what would otherwise be just a meaningless jumble of numbers.
And check this out. This slide is so cool because it shows how a raw list of 40 different numbers gets transformed into this simple, clear table. Suddenly, we don't just have numbers, we have a story. We can see right away that out of 40 pieces of fabric, having just one defect was the most common result. It happened 11 times. We can also see that getting a perfect piece with 0 defects happens 6 times. Now that's organization.
So, a frequency table is awesome for seeing what's most common. But what if we need to see the bigger picture? Turns out, we can squeeze even more powerful insights from this very same data.
Now, this is the kind of question that managers and customers are always asking. Hey, what percentage of our fabric has 2 defects or less? To answer a question like that, we can't just look at one number at a time. We've got to look at the data cumulatively.
And we do that by creating what's called a cumulative frequency table. It's really simple. You just add up the frequencies as you go down the list. So, the cumulative number for one defect is the count for 0 defects plus the count for one defect. That's 6 plus 11, which gives us 17. And you just keep going like that all the way down.
And boom! That's the power of that one simple step. By looking at that cumulative frequency column, we can instantly say that 27 of our 40 pieces, that's almost 70%, met our quality standard of 2 defects or fewer. All of a sudden, this isn't just a list of flaws, it's a real performance metric you can take to your boss or a client.
Okay, so now that we know how to organize and really understand our data, it's time to pull out the big guns. Let's talk about the main tools engineers use to actively manage and control quality as it's happening.
The most powerful tool, the real workhorse in the whole Statistical Quality Control toolkit is the control chart. I want you to think of it like an EKG for your production line. It's plotting data over time, and it uses these statistically calculated lines to tell you, hey, everything's stable and predictable, or, whoa, something's wrong here.
Now for things you can actually measure, like the thickness of yarn, engineers use 2 of these charts together. Think of it like being an archer. The X-bar chart, that one tells you if your arrows are hitting the bullseye on average. It's all about your accuracy. The R chart, on the other hand, tells you how tightly grouped your arrows are. It's tracking your consistency. See, you could be super consistent but always hitting the target way off to the left. Or you could be accurate on average, but your arrows are all over the place. To be a great archer, you need both accuracy and consistency. You need both charts. So, with that in mind, let's really step onto the factory floor. If you were the engineer, how would you actually use these charts to keep an eye on production?
Well, there's a really clear, repeatable process for it. You take small samples at regular times, like maybe you grab 5 bobbins of yarn every hour. You measure the thing you care about, then you calculate the average and the range for that small sample. Then you just plot those two numbers as little dots on your X-bar and R charts. Over the course of a day, those dots start to paint a picture of how healthy your process is.
Here's some real-world data to show you what I mean. An engineer is tracking what's called linear density, which is basically just a fancy term for the thickness of yarn. They've taken 8 samples, and for each one, they've calculated the average and the range. You can already spot something fishy with samples 5 and 6, can't you? Those averages look kinda high.
So the very first thing you do is calculate the average of all your sample averages. This becomes the center line on your X-bar chart. It's basically the historical average, the bullseye for your process. In this case, that number is 20.475.
Next, you use some standard formulas to calculate your upper and lower control limits. Think of these as the guardrails for your process. And when we plot our 8 little dots against these guardrails, well, we see a problem right away. Sample 4 is below the lower limit, and samples 5 and 6 are flying way above the upper limit.
This isn't a guess or a maybe. This is a loud, clear, statistical alarm bell going off. The process is officially out of control. Now, that doesn't mean it's total chaos on the factory floor. It's a technical term. It just means something fundamental has changed, causing the average to shift. And it's a signal that an engineer needs to investigate, like right now.
But this is the really fascinating part, and it's why you need both charts. The R chart, the one for consistency, it showed that all the points for this same data were perfectly fine, totally within the control limits. This tells the engineer that while the average thickness is way off, the consistency of the process is still stable. That is a massive clue. It helps them find the root cause of the problem way faster.
And really, that's the true power of all this. Statistical quality control doesn't just drown you in data. It gives you a clear signal to take action, and it even gives you clues to help you figure out what's wrong. So the most important question isn't just knowing you're out of control. It's what you're going to do about it to get things back on track.